Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Benchmade Mini Freek, but this is the upgraded variant in S90V and carbon fiber. This is something I remember when I handled the large Super Freek for the first time. I thought, this is awesome. I think a lot of people would like this in a mini, and I'm late to the game. Like everybody knows, I mean, this is, and they probably saw it coming too. But yeah, this is a great knife. So a mini certainly seemed like something that was in order, and then, you know, understandably they made it in two different forms. The standard form in S30V, and it's got like a combination of G10 and or not, it's like a rubbery material, and then the FRN, and then they have the upgraded one that you just saw there in M4 and G10. I will link all of these, every variant, the large and small, all down in the description so you can check this out. Absolutely. Very compelling knife. This knife was sent to me by Tier 1 Gear and EDC. He has a YouTube channel. Please take the time to leave this video and go subscribe to him. I promise I will still be here. But yeah, thanks so much, Tier 1 Gear and EDC. Sorry, the camera's shaking a little bit. I'm sitting down again, and that means that periodically my elbows are on the table, and what happens is as I move around, the camera shakes a little bit. So I'm looking into ways to fix that, but I think this is probably going to be better for overall quality, keep my voice from jumping from left to right, because when I stand up, I kind of pace. So anyways, yeah, let me know down in the description what you think of that. Also, thank you so much to my generous patrons for supporting me right now. If you'd like to check out my Patreon and get your hands on some cool stickers, there is, of course, a link down in the description. There's other cool stuff we do there. You're supporting mean the world to me. And also, follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. Overall length of the Mini Freek coming in at 7 inches. Blade length coming in at, boy, it's right, it's just barely under 3, but be careful about that. Depends on the scenario and who's measuring it, right? They might measure that at 3 inches, making it illegal potentially in some places. The cutting edge is coming in at about 2.8. It's a nice size. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. I got a few extras here today up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall, so you can see there it's definitely smaller now. I wouldn't call it a mini knife, though, even though it is a Mini Freek. Up against the Spyderco PM2. Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Super Freek, or the full-size Freek, whatever you want to call that. Full-size Freek is coming in at, I think, 8.5 inches overall. Let's go ahead and measure it real quick just to be sure. Yeah, that one's coming in at 8.5 inches overall. So there you go. There's your size comparison there. How about, let's see here, the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue. The Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. Let's go ahead and put it up against the Mini RSK, because I think in a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of people out there considering either buying this, the RSK MK1 G2 Mini, or the Mini Freek. This, to me, in a lot of ways, the Freek is kind of replacing the Benchmade Griptilian in Benchmade's line, as far as like the, you know, like it's their big thing, because the Ritter Hogue in a lot of ways is just a much better Benchmade Griptilian. So Benchmade's got to have a, you know, a thing that's, you know, worth, you know, going after over the Ritter Hogue. And so there's a lot of justifications for the Super Freek over the standard size RSK. So comparing the two mini versions of them, you can see here, the mini RSK is coming in something like probably a little under 7. No, it's coming in, it's just a hair under 7 maybe. So this is a little bit more. Did I measure that at 7? It's actually a little bit more. It's about 7 1/8. So the mini RSK is just a little bit shorter there. We'll do a battle video between those two. And then last but not least, the smallest knife that I carry, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7 1/4, and it appears to be just a hair longer, which would make sense. How's the action on this guy? This is an Axis Lock Benchmade. It is much the same from all other Benchmades that I've handled. It is, you know, every time I handle a Benchmade, you know, with older ones, sometimes you get that grittiness that you feel in the Axis Lock, and sometimes there's quality control issues. Handling newer models from Benchmades, I've noticed a couple of things. We get more stuff like You know, the centering appears to be really good on some newer models. Fit and finish and overall just quality, feeling of quality seems to be a little bit better. This is one of those newer Benchmades where everything feels like what I'd expect for this caliber of the high-end production knife world. Everything feels great. It is very smooth. It drops when you pull the lock back. It snaps. I mean, the action on this guy is just fantastic. The position of the thumb stud is great. It translates basically everything that I like about the large Freek, or the Super Freek, translates really well into this this mini Freek. I really like that. In fact, the positioning of the thumb studs in this guy is actually better than the Benchmade Griptilian and Mini Griptilian, and that's saying something because it already felt great in the Griptilian, so it's really good. And I mean, it's one of those things where it's amazing that this is on phosphor bronze because it's just so smooth. It's really, really something great. Sorry, I'm missing it there because of the way that I'm holding it. I'm sitting down, so I'm trying to get that all captured on camera, and it's just a little bit awkward. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk. Let's do the hardboard check. Get out my tools here. You can pick up my tools down in the description. They are very inexpensive and very recommendable. Like most Benchmades, I think the pivot here is going to be a T10. And yeah, that's a T10. Ooh, that was a little loose there. Let's see if we can tighten that up. Does it still stay? Oh yeah, it's nice and tight. Okay, well, that's the case sometimes. This is owned by somebody else, and as you flip stuff, you know, sometimes pieces come loose, and you can adjust it and just put some blue Loctite in and get that the way that you want. No big deal. And I'm not even going to get it out. All the other screws on there are T6. I don't like T6. Benchmade just loves T6, and they love to put them all over the place. That's a problem sometimes with Benchmade knives. I've customized many Griptilians, and I always hate taking the screws out. In fact, that's where my hatred of T6 screws came from. Now, unfortunately, I'm dropping this all in the Mini Freek. It should never be a deal breaker. It's just something you need to be cognizant of while you're taking the knife apart, because the screws can strip, or your bit heads can strip, and it just sucks. Benchmade's pretty good about getting you more parts though, so that's the nice thing, is at least Benchmade's got a great warranty, and they really do have an excellent warranty. I've used it many times to get extra parts and things like that when I screw something up. Let's go ahead and talk about carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. You can see there it is just a little bit thicker. There's some heavy chamfering, and I wouldn't necessarily call either of these knives thick, but it is a little bit thicker. We have full liners here. Oh, actually, no. No, that's not right. We don't have full liners. We have got a cartridge liner, so we've just got fairly thick carbon fiber scales. It's nothing crazy, just something to be aware of. Let's do profile up against two slightly awkward knives in the pocket that everybody loves. The Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. You can see there it's shorter than both in terms of length, and it's nowhere near as tall at its maximum height. So, I mean, dimensionally, the only thing that's a little bit in excess is the thickness, but it's really not that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness. Getting my calipers here. Sorry about that. Let me zero that out. There we go. Blade stock thickness, I'm going to guess about 110. It's even less than that. Pretty thin blade stock. Less than 110 thousandths. Calipers can be a little bit off sometimes. My point there is that we don't have a... What the heck is going on here? Hang on a sec. I gotta put it down before I turn it on. Weight, we're looking at nothing. 2.61 ounces. This is under the 3 ounce mark. At, you know, all these different ratios that people go by, you know, ounce and inch, or, you know, under 4 ounces, or whatever it is. For me, anything that's under 3 ounces is just trivial. You know, I look at the profile anyway before I look at weight, and then I have my weight range preference, right? 4 to 6 ounces is what I prefer to carry, but there are definitely situations where I like to carry a lighter weight knife. Anything that's under, like, because people talk about, well, the Benchmade bug out and mini bug out, the ratios are so good because it's 1.8 versus this blade length, or the Para 3, whatever. Under 3 ounces, it's lightweight. It's ultra lightweight to me, and that makes it really easy to carry. This is going to be comfortable if you're wearing athletic shorts, if you're wearing skinny jeans, even if it does have a little bit of excess thickness, right? Or you're wearing regular work pants, it just doesn't really matter. This is going to be friendly to pretty much everybody. Just make sure, you know, check your local laws. That's right on the 3 inch mark, so just be careful about that. All right. Let's go ahead and move on here. Carbon fiber looks great. Benchmade does a good job with carbon fiber. There are no sharp edges anywhere on this knife. It's just fantastic. Ergonomically, yeah, it's great. The design of the Super Freek translates really well into a mini, and despite it being a mini, I can absolutely get a full 4-finger grip on this knife. On this area up here, you can kind of rest a finger up there. It's a little bit, you know, you might run your finger up on the blade. It's one of those designs where I think they might have been able to kind of turn this area into, if they just sort of carved this out a little bit, it would have been a little bit more comfortable to finger, but it still wouldn't be a full forward choil. It's not really that big of a deal. One of the issues with this design is that you're so far away from the cutting edge from where you're putting this finger. It's the same way with the large, like the Super Freek, right? You're a long ways away from the initial cutting edge. And on top of that, the thumb stud is a bit in the cutting path. So if you're going to hold it and you're going to push straight down, you're almost an inch from being able to push straight in. And so that takes away from some of the power that you might want from a heavy pressure cut, like if you're pushing in a cardboard. It's pretty minimal though. I'm being pretty nitpicky there. I've used the Super Freek extensively outside. Mine is not one that gets babied. It has been used quite a bit, and I found that to just not be that much of an issue, but it's something I'll point out for some people who care to know. This ramp back here, it's kind of nice. It's got kind of a curvature to it, and it feels a little bit more natural, and I can bear down on it pretty well. I like that area, definitely. I also really like what they do with this upgraded carbon fiber version, and they put these they're probably red coated steel thumb studs, and then back here they might be steel, or aluminum, whatever. I just like the red. The red looks nice with the carbon fiber, and it's just a little thing that I kind of like. This is, I don't know if we sorry, I'm getting rid of some of these fingerprints. I don't know if we call this a tumbled finish or what. Benchmade's tumbled finish is so light that it almost looks satin, but there is a little bit of tumbling going on there, and I appreciate that. And the end result is that all these corners are nicely knocked down, and there's no sharpness there. The profile of the blade is just excellent. This is definitely a performance cutter. It is nice and thin behind the edge, and this is just, it's an excellent EDC-style drop point blade. It's just wonderful. More so resembles, the Ritter Hogue style of blade. And the reason that I think the Super Freek came to be is because Doug Ritter used to do a Griptilian with Benchmade. And everybody realized that Doug Ritter's blade shape was just better than the drop point Griptilian. It was a better cutter, right? And so they stopped production of that, and then Doug Ritter went on to make basically the exact same knife with Hogue. And, the Freek was shortly after born, or it was born around the same time, I guess. And then it, became extremely popular. And it's no coincidence, I think, that the blade shape is very similar. It's just a better blade shape than the Griptilian for EDC. Keep bringing up the poor Griptilian because in many ways, the Freek and Mini Freek are just evolutions of the Griptilian. A welcome evolution, I think. Not to say that the Griptilian's not a good design. It's still worth it to some people if you really want the Tanto or the sheep's foot blade. But anyways, we got a flat that carries out about 70% the length of the blade. There is plenty of thickness carried out to where you don't have like an absolutely needle tip, and it's not a tip that I'd be worried about too much during use. This is S90V. S90V, what is S90V? It's a very, very premium steel. The emphasis here is on edge retention, and then it's still stainless. It's not quite as stainless as like S30V, nowhere near as stainless as M390, but still stainless. The steel is not tough, and it is not fun to sharpen, but if you get it on the right blade geometry, it really is awesome. This is not a knife that I would call a hard use knife. It's just a really, really classy, really spiced up EDC knife, but the blade geometry is about perfect for S90V. So if you're doing things like cutting cardboard, or you're just cutting open packages, or just cutting light material a lot, S90V is going to work really well for that. And I think this is great on this blade geometry. This blade geometry does well with pretty much any steel, though. You just get the added benefit of having that nice thin edge being exemplified by a composition like S90V. So I think that's great. Blade just excellent all the way around. Moving down, of course, the same thing I say about all axis locks is they're very easy to manipulate. Fidget factor's all there. It's awesome. It's a strong lock. The weakness is that it has Omega springs. Your Omega springs might last for 20 years, or they might last for one day. It's more likely they'll last for quite a while. People read about Omega springs breaking on the internet, and that's because you're not going to have nearly as many people saying, my Omega springs are fine. You're going to have more people, being loud when their Omega springs break, which is why it seems like it happens so often. It really does. I've never had an Omega spring break on any of my Benchmade knives or any knives that utilize it. I've never had that happen. And I've been using and buying Benchmade knives for a long time, so it is something to be aware of. It's a good idea to get in there periodically and add some, I'll use like break-free CLP just to make sure that everything's okay. Don't let them dry up, because if they get brittle, then that's when that happens. But anyways, the internals here, got my flashlight. You can pick up my flashlight down in the description. There is a little cartridge liner in there. Previously, I used to not like that because I wanted the entire knife to have, a steel frame or at least countersunk steel liner. Doesn't really bother me anymore. I think that's just fine, and it allows the carbon fiber to do its job and be lightweight. And as you can, you guys notice when I weighed it, it is definitely lightweight. The pocket clip is unfortunately being positioned underneath a lanyard hole. The lanyard hole just doesn't need to be there anymore. I'm at the point where I'm going to start being more negative in reviews where I see newer designs where the lanyard hole is being emphasized or prioritized over the clip. This is stupid. Stop doing this. If it doesn't work with the pocket clip, if there's not enough room, just don't put it on the knife. I want this pocket clip to be higher up because it's not necessarily a shallow carry knife. There's just too much of this. A lot of this can be remedied by just getting the Benchmade deep carry clip, which actually, do I have one with the deep carry clip on? Yeah, here we go. This exact clip. It works just fine, and it'll make this a lot deeper. It's the same kind of issue here with the Super Freek, but the deep carry clip remedies a lot of that, and then the hole's still there. The hole doesn't need to be there. Nobody's putting lanyards on their knives anymore. And if you are, and you're like, hey, I put lanyards, then, I feel bad for you, but it's not something that needs to be there anymore. So this is dumb. We just need the clip higher. Also, this has the unfortunately shaped pocket clip on it, I think, is what comes with it. I would just switch the clip out. Get one of the deep carry clips. They're easy to get from Benchmade. The other side of the knife looks just the same as the front, except it doesn't have the adjustment head. The pocket clip can be positioned for left-handed carry, which is great because the axis lock is ambidextrous, making this a truly ambidextrous lock. So lefties can enjoy it, which is pretty much the same with all Benchmade knives. So again, little things that I can nitpick. The thumb studs are a bit in the cutting path, like the large Freek, and also like the large Freek, there was an area here that could have been more of a forward choil. It's not really that big of a deal. It uses T6 screws, and quite a few of them, but okay, whatever. And then the pocket clip position is less than optimal, but it will work just fine. There's really not a lot to nitpick here, except, I'm sure you guys knew it was coming, the price. So the standard Freek comes in at like 115 bucks. That's okay. These are made in the United States. I don't really like FRN. I like G10 more. A lot of people feel like they're getting more quality with a G10. I don't know what the cost is on the back end. They probably cost about the same, right? The strength on FRN is plenty good. It's just a feeling thing. FRN feels cheap to me. I think the standard Freek is okay in price, right? Both the mini and the large. And honestly, I'm okay with the price on the Super Freek. The Super Freek in M4 and G10 comes in at like $190, $195. And that's, again, this guy right here, which will be linked down in the description as well. They want $263 for this knife on most retailers. So $260. That's too much money. This to me feels right around $225. S90V is expensive. It seems to be, I see that across the board. Anything that's using S90V just costs more money. And from what I've heard, S90V is not cheap to get a hold of, from the manufacturer. So I understand it costing a little bit more than the Super Freek. I mean, for anybody who's like, it's a smaller knife, it shouldn't cost more. The size of the knife has nothing to do with the pricing on it, right? That might be an internal thing for you, but that doesn't mean anything. It's where it's made, how it's made, what it's made out of, right? I just can't. There's no way I can put this together and come to $263. $225 or so, I would have been like, yeah, that feels about right. Yes, you are getting an excellent warranty with it, for sure. And that's going to add a little bit there, but $263, what the, $250 buys you. And again, people will be on like, for $260, I can buy blah, 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 blah. And most of the time it's something that's made in China. And so, yeah, you are going to pay more money for a knife that's made in the United States. It depends on where your value system is. But even considering this is made in the United States, considering it's carbon fiber, considering that it's S90V, I'm still kind of like, why? So the design is excellent. I can immediately recommend the exact same thing in the the G10 and FRN, or the rubbery stuff and FRN and S30V, yeah, I can immediately recommend that one to everybody. This S90V version, it's good. It's kind of the same thing that I feel about the S90V and carbon fiber 940. They want like $275 for that thing. It's the same feeling. It's too much money. Great knife, great design, very well made. If you look at that price tag and you're just, I just want to know if it's well made, right? I like the design, right? Then yeah, you're going to be totally happy with it. But if you're on the fence and you're like, is it worth that much money, right? I'm not completely sold on the design. You know, it sounds like it's made well, but is it worth that much? I don't think so. It's just too much money for me. So, you know, take from that what you will. You might love it. I mean, if you're sold on the design, you'll probably love it and you're okay with spending that money, but can't quite put it in my most recommended knives playlist. I'm getting a little bit more picky about the knives that go in there. This will be included on the Benchmade knives playlist. You can check that out along with all the other Benchmade knives that I've reviewed. But yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much it for today's video, guys. Now, if they did a mini in G10, like basically did a mini version of this, right? Do this knife, but just make it this size. Same color G10 and M4, right? Charge me $180 for it. You got it. No problem. I'll recommend that all day, but I'm not paying that much for S90V and carbon fiber. That's just my opinion. Anyways, thanks again to Tier 1 Gear and EDC Reviews. Please check out his YouTube channel. And also remember to follow me on Instagram. That's going to be pretty much it for today's review, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that metal complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.